Target one. Hello everyone. So thank you for coming. Deno will now start. So first of all, I want again to thank you all for coming. This is the first Deno meetup, Parisian and French, and we are really happy, Sylvain and I, to see that much people. How much we are, Sylvain? 50, 60?
55.
Yeah, nice, very nice. Okay, so 55 people. That's a lot, a little bit more than we expected. So without further ado, we're going to start and doing the presentation of Parisien. So what is Parisien? Parisien is a French and Parisian meetup. Like I said, we are planning to do a meetup every 2 months alongside PariTaxScript. I will go back on this later. We are also planning to do some regular and online event, as you can see. So because of the COVID-19, sadly, we have an obligation to do online meetups. But as you can say, we are ready for that. So, and as I can see, you are also ready to see us. So that's great. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Discord, YouTube, and meetup.com. We try as much as possible to share with you information about what we are currently doing. If you want to, for example, Parisien sent like 2 or 3 months ago some merge requests on the Deno repository. So we'll try at most to keep you updated with that. If you want to contact us directly, you can do it by mail at contact@deno.paris. But also on Twitter with the account mine, LTGETIAS, Sylvain, and myself. So, Sylvain is this guy. So yeah. Don't hesitate if you have any question about anything, even how to set up an online meetup. I had some question like 1 week ago. Don't hesitate. We struggle a lot to share this information for people to not struggle like us. So obviously, because we have a meetup, we ask for people to give us talk like a CFP. So any kind of talk are accepted, like a return of experiences, a demonstration about a library or a framework, like we will have tonight, a presentation about Deno specific features, a comparison or how to migrate, for example, with Node or other backend languages, and anything that came through your mind. our talks are meant to be inclusive, beginner friendly, and also if you didn't talk before, don't hesitate to come. Seriously, it's a very nice first experience, and I think that will be either for you or for us a very good way to learn something, how to speak or how to present. Also, any kind of length of talks are accepted, like neat talks, for example, about 5 or 10 minutes. Workshop or live code, if you want to demonstrate how to migrate, for example, or also regular events like the ones we will have tonight. And finally, if you want to submit a talk, we have a GitHub repository for that at github.com/parisien/talks, and you can submit your talk in English or in French. Like tonight, we are fully in English. So I would like I said before, to thanks PyTypeScript. Deno was created inside PyTypeScript, and they help us to bring this project alive. So maybe Sylvain, if you want to talk about PyTypeScript.
Yeah, we can do that quickly. So PyTypeScript is the TypeScript community in Paris. We organize meetups every 2 months. So currently, of course, because of the situation, we don't have a plain event, but we are thinking of doing something online. So this is probably the next step for us, and you will have more information as soon as possible.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. So now it's time. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your meetup. So the first talk will be Paul Souche. And Paul, when you're ready, tell me.
And just for information, guys, because nobody can talk on YouTube, of course. If you have any question, you can ask to us. You can send the question on the chat with the question tag. I will share that with you, and I will do my best to take all the questions and ask the presenter to answer these questions.
Okay. So. Hello everyone. Sylvain, Lilian, do you see my screen?
Yep, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
So let's begin then. So hello everyone, and thanks for having me. Today I'm gonna speak about unit test and my first experience on Deno. Again, like said Sylvain, do not hesitate to ask your question during this presentation in the chat with the hashtag question. And Sylvain and Lilian will organize a Q&A session at the end of the session. So first of all, it will be a very beginner presentation. Who am I? I'm Paul. You can find me on the social networks. I'm a front-end developer. I do some back-end stuff, but no big deal here. And I do TypeScript since 2014. And I'm the co-organizer of the PyTypeScript with Sylvain and Felix. So first a disclaimer. Deno is in version 0.40 at the time I made this presentation. So what you will see may evolve since V1 and in further release, obviously. Okay, today I am going to speak to you about my first job, IT job interview. Okay, the recruiter told me to implement an algorithm to calculate the Fibonacci sequence, and he asked me if I knew it. Yes, because I studied in high school. I'm not an IT guy at the beginning. I studied chemistry, and when he asked me to write a unit test, I had no idea. He needed me to do what. So I did like I do always in a job interview. I ask a question and ask for help. I got the job. But they told me it could have been better if I did this test. So at the time, I was really happy to get my first IT job. I thought I was a Fibonacci master because obviously there wasn't just this exercise at the interview, but I thought this was the best exercise I did, and that's why I got the job. And I was really worried about learn everything about tests because I had a lot of stuff to understand. So my first resolution as a developer is always to learn a language, always learn something through tests. Meaning at the time I was beginning with AngularJS, and I did a lot of tests, not only unit tests, but also integration and end-to-end tests. And 7 years later, yes, Lilian told me about Deno, and I thought I think this is great looking actually, but I wondered how do you make a test? And he answered me, a Deno test. Yes, obviously, but what are the patterns? What do you test? What are the libraries? What is in the STD? And then he asked me, try yourself and make a presentation. Okay, then here I am, and I will do a presentation for really beginners. Okay, first of all, you have to know about the Deno test command. Okay, I guess everyone here know how to install the Deno CLI on your laptop or computer. If you don't, just go on GitHub, and you can find it on the Denoland Deno page. It's pretty quick, and it works even on Windows. Okay, so here I print the help. And what you can see is that you can test a folder, and Deno will find all the files matching the test pattern. So it's pretty opinionated, but that's okay to add test at the end of a file. Let's see then some useful options. So first of them are the flag allow. I put the allow all, but you have a specific flag like allow net, for example. In Deno, about security reason, you have to flag to activate if your code access to net layer, for example. So nothing new here. The filter flag works really great to just run one spec file. The inspect, break, and log level are used to debug, like in Node actually, and it works great. I tried it during my test, and it works really great. But there are limitations. Okay, it's my opinion, but I think that this is quite important. The first one is there is no watch mode out of the box, meaning that if you modify a file, you could expect your test to run again. You can do it through your IDE or through a third-party tool, but this is not inside the CLI. And I think it's my opinion again that is a problem. Specs are executed sequentially, no parallelism, like in Jest, for example, for who know Jest. Deno will execute file after file and test after test inside the spec file. I didn't find any tool to make coverage. And file must respect the glob pattern of the CLI. It can be tricked like watch mode because you have a run test method on the Deno namespace that can be used to execute all the Deno tests that are registered. Okay, so first achievement, we know how to execute tests in Deno now. So let's write our first test. Actually, there is 3 ways to write a test in Deno, actually, currently. The first one take name function. The name is used to name the test. It cannot be anonymous or lambda, and it will not break at the compilation, but it will break at the runtime during test. because it expects the name. The second one is take a string, the name of the test, and an anonymous function or lambda as the assertion. And the third one takes an object with the name of the test, and a function to execute. Actually, this is the only way to ignore tests. If you want to ignore a test at a certain time, you will have to use this signature because there is an ignore flag inside this object to ignore or not the test. There is no way to ignore, except a comment, obviously, the test with the two previous signatures. Okay, little problem here. Yes. Okay. What do we have about assertions? Assertions, you have the to be defined, meaning that you can assert it if a variable is truthy and not just a boolean, and it will fail it if your variables is falsy, so undefined or null or whatever. You have assertion on variable values like string contains or array contains and string match a given regex. Then you have assertion about data structures. You can assert if two objects are equivalent, and I found maybe bug. I launched a discussion about this on an issue on Deno, because empty array is equal to empty object, and this can be tricky sometimes. I think again, it's my opinion. The second test is pretty trivial because it only does a trip equal on the two value, and it fails if it's not equal. Okay, and what is great, in my opinion, is the error assertion. Here you can see the code, and what you can do is assert if a function invocation will throw, with what kind of error it will throw. So here I expect the error to be an error, and here I expect the error to be an assertion error. And what is really powerful, in my opinion, is to pass a string that is a piece of the error message. And if you use error code with your errors, you can just pass the error code here as a string, and whatever the message will be, the test will expect the error code to be present. Obviously, it works asynchronously. I didn't represent the async API, but it works async too. Okay, so now we can write tests in Deno, and I filled my gap with unit test. So now I can do job interview myself in my company, and I have access to all job interview reports. So guess what? I saw mine, and I didn't know Fibonacci at all. So Fibonacci, what is Fibonacci? Fibonacci is a sequence. The first member is 1, the second member is 1, and then every following member is the sum of the two previous members. Meaning that if you do 1 plus 1, you will get 2, 1 plus 2, you will get 3, 2 plus 3, you will get 5, etc. Yes, sorry. So, at the time of the job interview, what I did is, the purpose of the algorithm is here to calculate the nth member of the sequence. So, it can be achieved in a simple loop, adding the current number and the old number. And this has a linear complexity. Okay, here I check if my nth number is valid, and then I add them to get anytime for the nth member I will add and then return the obtained value. And as I knew recursion, I gave the recursive solution. So here you can see that I check my input, and here to not check my input again on each recursive call, I do if we are on the first or the second the first or the second member, I return 1, and if not, I compute all the Fibonacci members, the previous Fibonacci members. But at the time, I wasn't very expert about complexity, and I couldn't tell this was an exponential complexity to power n. Okay, and I did this famous unit test about testing all the members. So what I missed at the time is to memorize Fibonacci members result. Here, memo is a record, an empty object at the beginning, and if the value exists in the map, in the record, I will return it, and if it doesn't exist, I populate it inside the record, and I calculate it like we did before. Because the problem was that I will calculate Fibonacci n-2 here, and n-3 here and here, and etc. This will explode exponentially. So let's talk about Deno benchmark. That's why I told you about Fibonacci actually. Deno benchmark is a great API in my opinion. It's inside the testing STD, and you can do a great piece of code with a great API with a name, the times the bench will run, and a function to execute. Here the function will be invoked with a bench object. And you have the start method and the stop method to indicate the bench API when your code begins to compute and when it stops. So normally it's demo time. So let me switch my screen. Yes. Here. Sylvain, Lilian, does everyone see my screen?
Yep, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. So here I have my project in Deno. Okay, I'm using VS Code, and for your information, I'm using the Axotroy Deno extension. Okay, not during my demo. Sorry. So here you can find every example I gave you during this presentation, and my Fibonacci implementation. Okay, you can see that there is a Fibonacci Gold implementation. I will tell you about that in the near future. So let's do a first bench about using the non-recursive solution and the recursive solution. And we can see that we need to calculate the 35 member of the to have a great difference. Okay,
Paul, just a minute. Can you just zoom a little?
Yes.
Your editor,
sure.
Thanks.
Is it good now? Maybe if I do that.
Yep, it seems okay. Thanks.
Okay, so maybe I will switch on my terminal, okay, and I will use Deno run bench Fibonacci rec bench, and here we can see that the recursive solution took 452 milliseconds, where the normal solution took less than 1 millisecond. So this was obviously not a good solution. Okay, then let's try it with the memoids solution. Okay, here is the increment increase a little. Okay, and here again, you can see that there is a difference between the normal solution and even with the memory solution, it took 30 times more than the normal solution. Okay, and here you can see that is right. It does 10 runs and can compute the average duration, and we get this with a great API. I think it's my opinion. So, during the COVID-19, I watched videos on YouTube, and I like mathematics actually, and I discovered that there is a no-one solution for Fibonacci, and this is the one. Actually, phi is the golden number. It's the solution of the equation x square equals x plus 1. This is a polynomial. There is actually two solutions. What we call phi bar in French. Sorry, I don't know the word in English. And you can compute the nth member of the Fibonacci sequence like that. Okay, I won't do the proof today, but you can follow the links, and there will be all the reference I used inside my presentation when I will publish a slide, and this is part of it. So sorry, it's in French, but I think that what the guy do is really comprehensible even for a collegian or so. And as you can see, the last bench will allow us to see that obviously a one solution is better. Okay, and now we took less time than the normal solution, the loop solution. Okay, that's all for me. Let me return back on my presentation. Okay. Sylvain, is it okay?
It's okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So in conclusion, what we can see is what I can say is Deno dev experience is really great, thanks to Xtreme extension for VS Code, obviously. But what is really great is when you import something from the STD, assertion and so on, you can navigate through code directly. Not like in TypeScript and the declaration file. You have the direct implementation locally accessible in one click. So this is really great. In my opinion, testing STD and CLI are not production ready at all. At all is a bit harsh, but I mean it because there are a lot of tools inside the JavaScript ecosystem that do a lot more. And if Deno wants a CLI, I think that it could be great to improve things about it. And I hope, obviously, that the bench API will be kept. So thank you. That's all for me. We are no Fibonacci masters. And as I said to you, reference and resources are available in my presentation. And actually, you can find all my projects inside on my GitHub. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
So we don't have any question instead of can you zoom the presentation? Sorry for that. But if Lilian want to ask something, or feel free, guys.
For me now, not for now, but yeah, thank you again, Paul. Thank you. Can you unshare your screen?
Yes.
We have a question. Is code coverage on the roadmap?
I don't know.
And another one, just with Deno. I think that it can be great if we have the expect package from Jest in Deno also. So that's a good question, but I don't think that.
Actually, in my opinion, it's my opinion, but the assertion API in Jest are pretty a black box. It does as Yacine did and still do, but I'm not a big fan of the assertion API of Jest, meaning that it's the Jest API, but it looks like Jasmine, but it's in Jest. So do a test runner have to have its own assertion? I don't think so. I like the way Mocha and Shy are built, meaning that you have the test runner that is Mocha, and you have the assertion API that is Shy. And if you see the issue I told you in the presentation about the empty array and empty object, I watched how does these things works in Shy and in Jasmine, and the deep equal implementation of Shy is, in my opinion, again, the best way to implement things in JS. And I think we in Deno we can find a best implementation of this, and I don't think that Deno Jest will do the trick.
Okay.
But it's my opinion.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So
You're mute, Lilian.
you're mute. Yep.
Oh, okay. So now will be my turn. Thank you for reminding me to unmute myself. Okay, let me just present my screen. Okay. Does everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So, hello, my name is Michał. I'm also a member of Deno Warsaw. I wanted to present you one of the frameworks out there for Deno. I think it's one of the most interesting one. So, shall we begin? Okay, what is Drash? Drash is a REST micro framework for Deno. Drash is designed to help you build your projects quickly with the ability to scale. You can build an API, a web app on a single page application. And I will present you one of the single page applications built with Drash. You can find more information on the web page. I put the link below. And why use Drash? I think any framework which doesn't force you to match the solutions is good, especially on the early stages of the development. It gains inspiration from Flask, Laravel, Tonic, and RESTful principles. And the main building block in the Drash is a resource. And according to Mozilla network, the resource is a target of an HTTP request whose nature isn't defined further. It can be a document, a photo, or anything else. And Drash defines resource according to the Mozilla network. So instead of defining a route with a specific HTTP method, creating a controller class or mapping the controller class to that route, you create a resource class. And maybe now I will present you the small project built in Drash, the Hello World one. So I just changed my screen. Okay, so here I built two applications, one, the very basic one, the Hello World, and maybe I will mention, feel free to ask any questions on the YouTube, and feel free to interrupt. Okay, so this example is taken out from the Drash documentation.
Yes, wait a minute, just technical issue.
And when did it happen?
Just before you switch your screen.
Oh, that's
Seems
good.
okay now.
Okay, go ahead.
You're back?
Yeah.
You're back? Okay, sorry for the technical problems. The network is really overwhelmed during this disease. Okay, so this example is taken out
Michał,
right from the...
can you just zoom a little bit your
Okay,
editor,
yes,
please?
I think I can.
Thanks.
Like how do you do it? There is something like Zoom? Yes. I've never done that. Okay, is it all right now?
Yes.
It seems
great.
better, yep.
Okay, so here we define the resource, which, as I mentioned, is the main building block in the Drash. We always define the resource by extending the HTTP resource from the Drash package. Here I imported, and one of the great things in Deno is that you can import right away from the URL, so no npm, no package JSON, just import. Okay, so we define the paths on which resource belongs, and then the HTTP method. So we can define the get, we can define the, for example, delete, and all of the HTTP methods would be viable. So let me just run it. So we obviously need network, but we also would need the environment. Oh, yeah. Typo. Compile, and it's running. So I can test it. I will test it with CURL. I hope you guys see it because it can be a bit small. I will use get HTTP on my local machine. And we see hello world, and we can also do delete. We can. This is the basic idea for defining resources in the Drash. We could imagine to building this further according to our needs. And now I want to present you a simple to-do list application. So this is our starting point, and few things are happening here. So first I'm importing my resources, which I defined in other files. There are two: the to-do list resource and to-do item resource. The to-do list representing whole list, and item representing single items from that list. Later, I declare what's the fallback response output. I'm saying fallback because we can define others, but if we don't define what's the type of our response, it will fall back to this one. So I'm setting this to text HTML. I'm setting my resources accordingly. And one of the features of the Drash is the logger. So we can use built-in logger, set up it, and use that. I will not use the real database. So for our database, I will use just a simple array. I will define my to-do as title and if it's completed or not. So we will start with single item. I will define that it would be on the to-dos and ID path. So for a singular to-do item, I will define two methods. One would be for updating, and one would be for deleting singular. So we will obviously need to ID for some file identify this to-do list, this to-do list item, and the same goes for delete. For patch, we would update, just find our to-do, and another feature is here. So when something goes wrong, we can simply throw the exception, and we will pass the HTTP status code we wish and some message. For example, here, if we run an update and we run it on the to-do that doesn't exist, it will throw an error. So let me maybe run this application. All right. First, get our to-dos. Oh, I forgot about, and as you can see, the logger helps us with an exception. I forgot, of course, about flag to read files. Yeah, so it's another great feature of the Deno. Nothing we don't wish doesn't happen. Okay. And let me just put one more. Okay, so two things happened here. I set something called response content type, because in Drash, when we negotiate with the type, we use this custom header type when we set what we wish to get in response. So we got here, and here I use the switch, and in case of application JSON, I get
Michał,
all tools.
just a second. Some people ask to zoom more because they don't see clearly your editor.
Okay.
If you can just maybe two times, it will be okay. Yes, thanks.
Is it all right?
Yes, great.
I think it's better. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I cannot. I think I cannot zoom this one, this terminal one. Maybe I will try, but I don't think that anything happened. Oh, actually, it did. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes. So I wanted to get all of the my to-dos. So I've got two types of content type. One of which is JSON, which I use for the REST API, so I can call it like that. But I could also define some view, and now I will switch my windows. One second. All right, can you see my screen? You should. Okay. So this is slightly modified an example from the Vue.js, and I just integrated with the Drash application. So I can write some tasks. I can set hello Paris Deno as completed. Maybe I will do something else. Instead of sharing one screen, I will share all of my screen. It will be easier for me. Okay. All right. So as I did this things, these calls, we can see in our log that Drash say for us things that are happening. So when I set this as undo, get information that the patch was called for this particular item. Create new. And we get a post. So in conclusion, we can create quite easily resources with Drash. And maybe now I will say something about the view. So I used the example from the examples from the Vue GitHub repository, and I just modified it slightly to work with this application. Yes, and here when I fetch in all of our to-dos, which happens at the startup, I have to set the response content type to applicant JSON, because that's how we let them know our application that we want JSON, not the HTML, because otherwise it would set our output type to HTML. So this is what happens here. And here are, I would say, normal stuff happening. We can get our body params, but built in to the request method get body param. And this is the same for the path param. And I think it's also a file param. It depends on the what we are willing to get, want to get. Okay, so maybe there are any questions?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So what else? On the documentation page of Drash, which I think is quite nice actually. Maybe I can go there. You can find more examples. Here there are advanced tutorials.
Someone has a question. Why use response content type custom headers and not accept headers instead in your example?
Where here?
I think it's on the
Can you
on the
repeat the
header
question?
part. Yep. Why use response content type custom header and not accept header instead?
Why response? I think you mean this header, custom header type, yes? This one, response content type, yes? Not.
I think it's this one. Yep.
Yes. Okay. So why use that and not just the content type? Maybe that's the question, because with this I'm asking to return some content type, not because here will be better. When I'm saying here, when I'm setting content type, I'm saying that in my request there is application JSON. Okay, so this always also allows me to use the fetch, because fetch is expecting the body accordingly to this content type. But with this, I'm saying that what this fetch returns, it will be of this type. Yeah. So content type is for more. Yeah. For saying.
Okay. So we have another question. Serge said that it seems that everything is easy with to-do application, but what about bigger application and real application?
Yeah, like I never used that in bigger application. So I think it does, because of maybe in bigger applications sometimes it's easier to use frameworks where it's more strict rules how to use it. But I think in the future we'll see in future.
Okay, and we have another question from Tristan, and I have exactly the same question. What about middlewares like Express, for example? Yes,
there are middlewares. I didn't use any, and I didn't wrote any, but they are middlewares. So also Drash defines middlewares according to the Mozilla Developers Network. So I think I will just recommend to read the documentation about it. There are middlewares you can use. You can use it for example, for authorization cache.
So you have a basic middleware for this kind of concerns.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Another question from Alvar. So I have also this question in mind. Do you have a comparison between Oak and Drash?
I didn't use Oak. I want to, but I didn't. So I cannot really say.
Okay.
Maybe did you use Express in Node.js? Maybe
yes. I use
comparison between Express and Drash, for example.
Maybe this would be better to Express. Like in Express is more. I think IDC is also a little bit similar to Express. So in Express is more about the middlewares, I would say. Like everything you define really is a middleware. These functions. And in Drash, I think you are more focused on defining a resources.
Okay.
It's a little bit different workflow.
Okay. I think it's okay for this question.
Okay. So thank you, everyone.
Someone wants to ask you, what about performance? Especially if you compare that with Express.
I don't know. I think we can talk more about the performance when the first version will come out, because for now it's unstable and not ready to production. But that's maybe a good idea for another talk to measure and compare performance of Drash with other frameworks.
Okay, great. And I think a lot of people are waiting for the first version.
Yes, me too.
To take that in consideration, especially for production application. Okay, thank you for your talk, Drash.
Thank you.
Sorry,
you.
Michał, said Drash. I was reading the chat. Sorry for that.
It's all right. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. So the last talk will be from Yacine. So Yacine, whenever you're ready, you are muted. Unmute yourself, maybe.
Nice, I'm ready. You guys hear me, see me well?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna start presenting. I need to do some. Okay, I can share my screen with Chrome right now. I just need to restart it. See you right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Yep. This is macOS. Apparently, it doesn't let Chrome sharing my screen.
Maybe in preferences accessibility.
Yeah, I got it. All right, see you right now.
Yeah. So technical issue, obviously.
This is the silent moment. The silence moment.
Hello, darkness, my friend. Yes, you're muted again, Yacine. Unmute, and I think you're good to go.
Yes, I'm good to go. Thank you very much. Putting the camera, and now my screen. All right.
Great.
Nice. Okay. Do you see the slide?
Yes.
All right. And before we start, there's going to be some live coding, so I'm going to check the size of the editor right now.
Yeah, please.
What do you guys are thinking here? Is that good enough?
Let me just take a look on the stream, please.
Around.
I think you can zoom a little bit more, and it will be okay.
Okay, it's gonna start being hard to type, but I'm gonna do my best.
Yeah, seems okay. Thanks.
All right. Let's go to the middle of it. All right, so this is a talk about powering your front-end tooling with Deno. So the current state of front-end tooling is a choice between something very bare bone, where you don't have much tooling. Everything relies on the browser integration. So obviously no pre-compilation usually, but you have some snappy reactive development environments. On the other hand, the most popular choice right now is something with a lot of tooling. And by a lot of tooling, I mean specifically this. This is a very known joke. Non-modules can get really, really big. So even with something that's really easy to access, any boilerplate such as create React app or something like that, you're going to have megabytes of this. You need to download that. You need to manage that. You need to pin the dependencies and all that. And there's the front-end community, the front-end development in general is very tooling heavy. So the Deno here comes with batteries included that allows you to reduce the amount of tooling you need to provide. Deno comes with a runtime, obviously, but it also comes with a compiler. There's a TypeScript compiler in here which you can access. It also comes with a bundler. It takes a bunch of files and put it as once. This is something that Rollup or Webpack know how to do for front-end applications. It comes with what I call a module manager. So this is not really a package manager as with NPM or Yarn. The idea is you put directly the URL as you've seen in the previous talks, and this will manage downloading and caching it for you automatically. It comes with a test runner, as we've seen in the first talk. It comes also with a watcher, not one that is a bit bare bone. You need to code a little bit, but you have that capability. So the question is, can we build a full front-end pipeline only with Deno? And this is something that we're going to try to answer right now. So a word of caution, everything I'm going to show today is going to be quite bleeding edge. This is not something you can use immediately right away, but the goal here is to get you excited about using Deno for front-end development. You're going to see during the talk there are some issues. I hope that this will encourage people to contribute to help these, and I'm going to explain at the end of the talk why I think Deno is a great fit for front-end development. So what we'll build is just a small project with TypeScript, TSX compilation, source map supports, obviously, and just enough to run tests on that code, which it allows you to use most small projects. It will be enough for that. And the advantage here is you have everything out of the box with Deno to do that kind of thing. But before I continue and I show you some real code, a mandatory plug for the company I work for, Spendesk. See that? Spendesk is an all-in-one spelling platform. We're more than 30 engineers right now, and I really want to thank them because they give me time to prepare that talk. And this is something that we are very interested about at Spendesk. We have a front-end code base with more than one front-end application with more than 300,000 lines of code. And this is the tooling starts to get really, really annoying. Like we spend some time maintaining that, so anything that can help us have a smoother experience with our front-end tooling will be a net benefit. All right, so let's go, some coding. So this is a small project. This is a front-end project. There's no tooling whatsoever. Everything is, you have an HTML file with some CSS file, some images, the JavaScript for interactivity, and you can disregard this folder. It's just for stuff I want to show you at the end. So to play with that, we're going to open the index.html file, and this opens the application. There's a bit of interactivity. I can make the logo spin, and that's basically it. Now the question is, how can we bring the features I've talked about in that project, which are TypeScript compilation, JSX, we're going to use Preact for that to render stuff, and how can I add tests? So let's go. So the first thing we'll need to do is we're going to go over to the index.html. And as you know, Deno really is heavily reliant on ES6 modules with the import syntax. So to make it work on the front end, you use to change the type of your script tag to change it to module. I'm going to save it, go there, reload. And if you click and give it a spin, it doesn't work anymore. Let's take a look at the console. It says that there's an issue, of course, but actually what is happening is this is using the file protocol. There's no web server here, and you really do need a web server in order for modules to work. So testing stuff, having it break and fixing it is something we're going to do a lot during that live coding session. So how do we fix that? We need a server. At Deno, almost provides you one. There's a gist by Kristen Kelly, which is one of the an important contributor in Deno, where you have a really small file that allows you to have a static web server. So we're just going to copy this thing and paste it. We could use it directly with the URL, but we're going to do some modifications of this code later on. So I'm going to copy paste instead. We're going to put that in the folder I'm going to call tools and serve.ts. We'll do the trick. Okay. So you're going to see a bunch of squiggly lines right now. Editor super is null here. We're going to see that later. So how do we use that server? How do we run that server now? So Deno run tools serve.ts. And that should be enough. So I've cleaned the Deno cache before doing the talk. So you see it downloads everything it needs beforehand. And the problem, it doesn't have the allownet flag. So we need to add it. I don't really want to add that flag every time. So I'm going to add a script here. I'm going to call serve, which will call exactly the same stuff. Tools serve, but this time with an allownet. And let's make it executable, so I can just print it that way, serve. And here, allow net, maybe I need to place it here instead. Let's run it. Okay, start listening. So it seems to be good enough. Let's go. Localhost 8000. And we have an internal server error, and this is the modification we need to do. Apparently, Deno doesn't want to serve this thing. So let's add some logging to figure out what's happening. We don't see anything in the console here because the error gets swallowed at that point, where when we receive the status, we're just going to forward the HTTP error without logging it. So let's log it if it's a server error. So if the status is more than 500, we're going to log it, and we're going to log it exactly the same way as we would log. I would log an uncaught error. Okay. And I'm going to call that server error. All right. Let's close it, do it again, and it recompiles automatically. All right. So we still have the same error, but this time it logs. So allow read, this is what's missing. So let's go here and add allow read. Stopping again. So here it says no such file or directory. So let's take a look at what's happening. It's because I need to change some code here as well. It expects everything to be in static, but in here it's in www. All right. That one. All right. So now we have a server with module support. Doesn't seem like much, but it's will really be the start of everything else. Before we continue further rebuilding our tooling, we're going to fix this editor stuff partially only. We're going to talk about the issues later. But for that, you want to download Deno extension. You have 4 to choose from, but you really want to download the one from Axotroy. The others are just bundlers, while just Java-C is the previous, apparently unmaintained version. I'm not so sure about this, but everybody is advised to use this one, the one by Axotroy. So now that we have it, let's just restart server. I should need to restart the whole VS Code. All right. And you also need to tell VS Code to use Deno and not the built-in TypeScript extension. So we're going to add a folder called VS Code and the file settings.json, in which we will add Deno enable. Small typo. Let's do that again. Reload. Okay, so now we have type information, autocomplete, and everything else we would like to have. Now, let's move on to actually building some TypeScripts. So we have some JavaScript here, but we would like that JavaScript to be in TypeScript. So let's create a new folder which is called src with JS to keep the same directory structure. It's more complex than needed, but as we move forward, that might become handy to have it laid out that way. So we're going to create this one. Let's remove this code and put it here. We can actually directly remove that folder entirely. So now we have some JavaScript file. And same way, you have some squiggly lines here. We're going to ignore them for the moment. We want that TypeScript to become JavaScript without using anything other than Deno. And for that, we're going to use in the Deno API something that's called Deno compile. So let's take a look at the documentation. So the purpose of Deno compile, you are going to give it a, I'm going to zoom in, see it?
Yep, thanks.
So Deno compile. Yeah, the zooming apparently completely breaks the navigation. So
I saw that.
Okay, so Deno compile, you give it some source file. Optionally, you can also give it how the content of the files that are going to be involved in the compilation. But if you don't provide them, then Deno is going to read them itself. So we're definitely not going to pass here anything. And then you can provide more configuration for TypeScript, which we will look into in a moment. But first, let's do the simple thing. We're going to write a new piece of tooling, which we'll call build. And this build will just call Deno compile on our entry point, which is in src.js script.js. So this gives you a tuple. So an array with two elements. The first is the diagnostics. If there's a problem, this is the thing you want to look into to know what's happening. And else it will give you what they call an emit map, which we'll look into. So if there's an issue, let's log it. Else, we're going to take a look at the content of the emit map. All right, let's go. As before, we're going to do a little bash script so that it's just easier to run. And as you may imagine, we're going to do some allow stuff very soon. So Deno run tools build.js. Let's start with this. All right. Apparently it doesn't like some stuff. It doesn't file as rcscript.js. Yep, because I did a typo. I'm sorry. It's TS. In turning JavaScript into JavaScript. Okay. Function. Oh yeah. Autocomplete got the better of me. Okay, so it doesn't find all the documents. So the squiggly lines you've seen here, Deno has the same. Deno doesn't know anything about the DOM. It has some DOM compatibility with the window, but definitely not some web API compatibility, but nothing directly DOM related. So let's fix this. We need to tell Deno that it's okay. This is a front-end stuff, and this is where the compiler options are going to become handy. So the compiler options, we're going to put here undefined, because this is the resolution of the content of the file. But here, as you see in the VS Code hints, now we can put some stuff. And most importantly, we're going to put compiler options. And here we're going to put a lib. And the various libs we're going to be using are DOM and ESNext. By default, Deno does not have DOM, and they have something called Deno.ns, which is the namespace where you have the global Deno. But because we don't put it in here, it means that you cannot use Deno in front-end code. It's exactly what we want. Apparently, it doesn't like something here. Yeah, because we're already giving the compiler options. There's no need to add that key. And something in experimenting with this, apparently I need to put this as well. I don't exactly understand why, but this works. Other stuff, other thing, in your config, this works with capital DOM, but for Deno, you really need to put everything in lowercase. All right, so let's take a look at this. Okay, we still have errors. Animation name, yeah, this is a problem in that code, because animation end is not well typed in the DOM types provided by TypeScript. So we're just gonna silence it with a dirty any. Okay, and now we have the emit map. So the emit map is an object in which the keys are the paths of the file using with the specific protocol, and the values are strings which represent the content. And as you see, we are about to emit two files: the source maps and the original file. So I don't like having the source maps around. I think they clutter the file hierarchy. So let's inline them, and to inline them, it's really easy peasy. You go here and you say source map false, and see how we have auto completion. And then you add inline source map true. To disable the source map and put them back as inline. Build it again. As you see now, we are only emitting one file. So the idea now is to take that file and actually write it somewhere. If we write it exactly where Deno tells us, we're going to write it next to in src.js, but that's not really what we want. We'd like it to have in www.js script.js. So we can also instruct TypeScript to do it another way. We can say out there, the directory where we're going to build all that stuff. This is going to be www.js. Yeah, and now it's exactly telling us where it's going to write it. We're almost there. Now we just need to use the Deno API to actually write those files. So to use the Deno API, we have something called the write file. So let's take a look at it in the documentation. Here I have a link for read file. Originally, I wanted to load the tsconfig file, but for the interest of time, I didn't do that. So write file is here. Write file, it looks a lot like the write file from Node. So if you're familiar with that, it's very easy. You put some path and you put the data. The difference here is Deno does not use the buffer object from Node. This is Node specific. It prefers to use web APIs are web compatible, and this is how you'd represent the buffer on the web with typed array integers. So we will need to convert this into proper to convert the string into a proper web buffer. All right, so let's do this. We will need what we call an encoder. This is something provided by Deno automatically, new text encoder. And then we can loop over the content of the emit map, in which we have as the key the file path and as the value the content. And then now we just need to write that content with Deno write file to the provided file path, and the content must be encoder.encode with the content. I need to put in synchronous here, and we're going to do a promise all. I hope you are familiar with how promises work in object.entries. If you're not, feel free to ask questions at the end. It's not directly Deno related, but it could be good to talk about it. All right, let's go. So as you see, again, permissions problem, but we saw that coming. So we just need to add it here. And I also know for a fact that I'm going to need allow read as well. So let's put it right now. And we have no such file or directory. And you say, well, why though? It apparently has everything it needs. The reason is that when you try to write a file, the full path before must exist. In the standard library for Deno, we have something that's very handy, which is called ensure file. It will create the file first with all the directories it needs, so we don't have to do it. So let's import the ensure file. I always forget the syntax for importing stuff from the library. Let's try that. Deno land, I think. I always forget. Let's take a look at the manual. Yeah, I'm not going to put a version if they. So ensure file is provided by FS, and because we don't have the node resolution, we need to specify a specific file, which is the mod.ts. The squiggly thing here, it's because we have not downloaded it yet. So to download this first, we're going to use the command Deno cache. Deno cache, you give it some entry point, it will download everything it needs. So here it's downloading the FS package from the standard library. And now we can reload the language server so you can pick up on it. And now we have access to enter file. So let's use it. Make sure that the file exists. There are better ways, more optimized way to do this, but I'm going to stay as simple as possible. Now we can build it. All right, emit it with that content. And if you look at here, we have our script.js. So let's try to load it. Yeah, when I restarted, I stopped the server. So we'll need to open it again. Serve. Back here. Reload. Give it a spin. Yep, JavaScript works. So we've just made it's not a lot of code. It can also very easily be provided to you. Just someone hosted somewhere on a static file, and then you can just use a Deno run with the URL, and you can use it. So if you're under the impression that this adds a lot of tooling into your projects, yes, it does. However, you can definitely extract this out and reuse the same stuff for all your projects. It will work very well. You don't have to install it with the package manager first. All right, so let's take a 5-second break. So you have the opportunity to digest this all. And we're going to take a look at the test now. So how do we add tests? I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this. We already had a talk about it. The idea is how would you test something that depends on the DOM? So the tests I'm going to show you are not good tests at all. I'm not advocating for using this. I'm just saying that it can work that way. So let's create a test file. I'm going to call script.test.ts. And in here, we're going to do a Deno test. And what are we going to test? So we'd like to test that something simple. When we call spin logos, it will indeed add the spin class. I think this will be enough. We could also do some mocking with add event listener. If this comes up in the questions, I'm going to show you. So let's test it. Spin logos adds the spin class to the provided to the logos. All right. So we'll need to import it first. This is why I added the export keyword. .ts. And now we can. We also need to import the insertion library. Again, I'll try to do this from memory. And as before, we'll need to ask Deno to update the cache. So you need to do that when you use Deno at first, but the more Deno you use, the less you have to do that command. Apparently, it doesn't work. So let's take a look at the manual. I'm sorry. If you ever in need of checking out what is available, you can go into Denoland STD and you can see everything. And here I see that there's nothing called assert. So I guess this is something related to the test, right? Testing, I guess. Yep, indeed. Testing asserts. I'm sorry, we just showed that, seen that today, but I've already forgotten about it. Right, apparently it already knows about it. And we're going to assert that a logo.classList has the spin class. So for that, we'll need to get the logo. So the logo is just going to be an object with a classlet, which is going to be an empty set. And somehow we also need the documents query selector role to be provided that for it to return the logos. So it's going to be a function that returns the logo in an array. Document here, the trick is to do window.document, window as in a document. And you can basically have anything in here. So now I've mocked the query selector all. The only thing that we're missing is to actually call spin logos. And now we can write the tests, run the test. So how do we run the tests? You've seen that already. Deno tests, and I don't even need to provide the path. I can actually do it on everything. There's going to be a twist though. Yeah, it doesn't know about documents either. So how do we tell about it? So we're going to create a tsconfig file for that. And it's the same thing as before. And it's the same thing, so I'm going to copy paste it if you don't mind. Let's go into the build, taking all that stuff, putting it in here. We don't need anything related to source maps, nor do we need anything related to and I have something called fixed.json that's going to, yeah, nice. All right, what are we missing here? It's a bit confused. I'm going to reopen it. It is still confused. Okay, doesn't matter.
Yeah, you have a typo, yep.
Where is the typo?
You fix it, the error.
The error.
No, it's okay, it's okay. You fix that.
Okay. So now we have the compiler options with the lib target, but we also have Deno in here. So we need to provide it as a library. And this should be good enough. So let's provide that to Deno test as well. And as with the other one, you can put that in a bash script to not have to type it every time. Okay, it doesn't like that, apparently. I swear it worked at some point. So there's another way to work around that issue, is to use references. So I don't like that way at all. And this is one of the limitations we'll talk about. Where you can add reference three slash stuff to tell TypeScript that this will use done. So I don't know why it doesn't highlight. Usually it does, because I need to close it. Okay. And this should do the trick as well. Yeah. I'm sorry. Apparently, there's stuff it doesn't like because it's redeclaring web-compatible stuff that Deno already handles, apparently. Or no. Well, yes, it does. Okay. I don't know what I did better the last time for it to work, but at least it showcases you a limitation. And about limitations is a good segue. We're going to talk about limitations. So first, there's a very big limitation that relates to the paths. So let's take a look at what gets generated by Deno. So you have something here. It's basically what TypeScript does. But something to know about TypeScript, it doesn't rewrite imports paths. So imagine that this file here, script, relies on another TypeScript file, which we'll call I don't know, import foo from. So you need to provide the extension when you use Deno. And when you look at the generated code, you're going to have the exact same thing, import foo from foo.ts. However, that foo.ts that was in your code will end up here as a foo.js. And when you load it in the browser, it will not work. So I would love to show you that, but I don't want to take too much time. I've tried many ways to fix this. One way is to add tooling to rewrite the past, but the whole point of this is to minimize tooling. So let's not do that. The next way to do this is to use import maps. So import maps is something that's supported by Deno, but it is also supported by Chrome behind the flag. So what are import maps? Import maps are a way to tell the runtime, if you have to require this path, load the content from that path instead. So we are able, in the import maps, to map all the TypeScript files to their corresponding JavaScript files, and this will work immediately in the browser. So I have some code that generates the HTML file for that. It will take the init map, take all the JavaScript file, then it will replace the extension by TS or TSX. Let's remember that. And then you're going to generate the import map, which it will write as a tag inside the index.html. So once you have that, you fix the problem. However, it's still in the roadmap for Deno. Let's take a look at this issue. So if you want to help on that, this is the issue that tracks. It's not too old. It's the issue that tracks that problem of rewriting paths. The other problem we saw is when I ask you to disregard the squiggly stuff, it's actually not immediately fixable. Well, this is because of this TS config. So
Yes.
Yeah, this is.
I don't want to cut you, but someone shared that in the chat that you need to change the extension of the file.
Of which file?
The tsconfig.ts. You have the tsconfig test.
Yeah, this is by design. If you put a tsconfig.json, it will pick up on the JavaScript server will pick up on the config, but not Deno. Meaning that here it's TypeScript telling you it's fine, but if you reload it, there is actually no way for Deno to pick up on the fact that it's using the DOM. So you can still fake it with the reference stuff, but if you fake it with the reference stuff, you have other stuff that breaks because types are declared twice, so it doesn't like it. I tried to find many solutions for that. I'm not finding them. If you want to take a look at the issue that tracks this for the VS Code extension, this is this one. Again, approximately the same time, like 15 days ago. So that's. I wanted to show you also the JSX. So the JSX. There's not a lot of time, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'm going to when the version 1 ships and the most important, if the most important issue are solved, I'm going to publish a blog post, so you're gonna be able to read the solution there. But basically, it's as simple as importing Preact, and then inside the build, you're going to provide the JSX and JSX factory options in here. Again, when you import something from the outside, you get some sort of complexity, especially when it's front-end related code, because this will bring some DOM types as well. So until the story of how to handle DOM types is solved, using this for a real project is going to be challenging. Anyway, it still works. I've managed to do like some sample stuff with it. So let's talk about the last limitations, going back to the presentation. So things to fix, I've mentioned the path rewriting. Also something I haven't mentioned is how the types is distributed. So I tested that a couple of days ago, it wasn't working. Now it apparently works by magic. So probably someone in the last release of Deno did something great for that. But there's still a story of, imagine that you're building a front-end library and you want to distribute it as JS files with their declaration. Well, Deno is really file-centric. It really wants you to give the TypeScript file. So if you separate the types from the code, you're in the situation where you don't really know how to provide for your Deno users. There are ways to import the type declarations as well as the import, but I feel that the developer experience is not too great, so there's still something to fix. The editor support, as we saw, there are some lingering issues. Also, when the cache busts weirdly, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And the last point is about bundling. So far I was really focused on how do you have a good development environment with that, but at some point you'd like to use that tooling to get a bundle, which can serve to your user that is optimized. Fortunately, Deno has that capability, but it doesn't really work for front-end bundles. So there's a bit of work to do on that front as well. So is Deno the future of front-end tooling? It's definitely not the present of front-end tooling, but I'm really convinced that in the short time we can do something amazing. I think that front-end is really the killer. If Deno has a killer feature, it would be that one. So obviously, people interested in Deno are mostly backend because this is an equivalent to Node. However, I think it really fits how the web people think. The bar to entry for TypeScript is really, really small because Deno ships with the TypeScript compiler and it has compiling capabilities. So you just need to install Deno and then you can use TypeScript. There's no need to download TypeScript as well and configuring your editor and stuff. Deno itself is very easy to distribute. You just install it over and you have all those batteries included. And the distribution channel of modules, it really uses the web. You do not have an external tooling that must handle other stuff. As you've seen in the web space, dependency management is really a hard problem. We have a fair share of bad tools. They got really better, but now they're really complicated. I think that Deno is going to be a real breath of fresh air for the front-end people that really just want to focus on their work. So that was for me. I hope I got you excited about the prospect of using Deno for front-end. I hope that you will participate in making that future a reality. And thank you for listening. And you can follow me on Twitter at Yacine Hmito. Thanks again.
Great. Thank you
so much for this great talk. We have a question from Laurent, who asks, is Deno compiler option is the same as TypeScript options? I
want to put my face now. Sorry. Turn on camera. Yeah. Yes, exactly. This is the same. So in the Deno, they have redefined the type because there are some options that you cannot set that is being overridden by Deno. I have not seen anyone that was useful to me that I could not override. So the answer is mostly yes.
Okay, great. And we have another question. Does Deno bundler have TSC output to single file under the hood?
I don't know. I don't know the implementation of Deno bundle. I've looked at the emitted code. It really looks like Deno specific. So either they don't or they do, and they do some other treatment afterwards. So best guess, no.
Okay. We don't have other question, but thanks for your talk. It was a great one. I realize now that Deno is really great for front-end.
I think I have one question.
Yeah.
You know that Facebook is currently doing ROM, like a really opinionated front-end bundler. What do you think in comparison for between ROM and what you set up for Deno? Actually, because ROM also targets really low setup, very small amount of code to set up your front-end application. In comparison, what do you think about it?
I have not dug too much on ROM, besides just when the announcement came out, so I don't have a very well-formed opinion here. But my guess is that what motivates me in getting Deno working for front-end is the same thing that motivated the creation of ROM. You want less tooling, more integrated tooling, less boilerplate, and some things that are just more cohesive and less heavy. So they're definitely concurrent between the two. Now, I still have the belief that ROM does not replace your package manager, so it really doesn't solve that part of the equation. And this is where Deno can really make a difference.
Okay. And do you think, my last question, do you think that people that will not use Deno as a backend application can still focus on using Deno only for front-end bundling, for example? Or it's only for
I hope
Deno
so.
backend?
I think that as we've seen, Node became really popular in the front-end community, even when not doing backend tools, just for their own tooling. And the barrier to entry for Deno is much smaller than Node. So there's no reason for it to not have a lot of success beside the inertia. Like there's already so much stuff done for Node. If you need to redo it for Deno, maybe people will not be too motivated. But beside that, yeah, I think that I'm sure that front-end people will use it for that. And there's another use case as well. It would be for native applications. Okay. It's yeah, I think it's a great runtime to, I mean, in the future at least, to develop native application, native desktop application. I mean, on.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Yacine.
Thanks for asking me.
And yeah, so in the physical meetups, that's the part when everyone is taking a beer and networking. So sadly, this is not our part, but don't hesitate to join us on the Discord if you have some more questions about it. We'll share them to everyone who spoke tonight. And so thank you everyone for the talk, Yacine, Michał, and Paul, that's not here anymore. And thank you everyone for in the chat, because there are a lot of people, 50 people during these 2 hours of meetup. And if you can give me some feedback, everyone, to know about the how to say the future of the meetup, if you like the format, if you like the talks, and so on, if you like our French accent, and so don't hesitate to tell us. So thank you everyone, and I will leave you with some great music if you want to. Thank you, and bye bye everyone.
Thank you.